Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 47 in the book of Ephesians. Now, technically, we finished the book of Ephesians. We finished the last written part of the book of Ephesians. But I was thinking today about reviewing for this purpose. There are things that I would rather not forget. There are things that I would rather not forget in Ephesians. There are things I would rather not forget about God. So Ephesians, one of my summary verses before was that Ephesians is a book about the kindness of God. It is also a book about what we are supposed to do because God is kind. That is, chapter 4 through 6 is about walking in a manner worthy. So other things that I would like to remind myself, that things I would not forget, that it's about God's lavishment. It is over the top and even over the head of blessing, of predestination, of God's choice, of his revelation to his people and to his adoption of humanity and of his relenting from the penalties of sin and his rescue and the inheritance that we get with the Holy Spirit as a down payment for all this lavishment. I'd rather not forget that real prayer asks for another person for real knowledge and then for real application, that they would know God's kindness and they would do the appropriate thing in response to that. It is real prayer asks by the power that is not our own for a power that is not our own. And real prayer asks with the power that is not our own for a power that is not our own. And I'd like not to forget that without God's intervention, that is God's B-U-T, we are a part of the zombie apocalypse in chapter 2, verse 1, that we are dead in our trespasses and sins in which you once walked. So all of humanity is part of the zombie apocalypse without the Lord. I'd like not to forget that there's a nuclear power plant of God's character in chapter 2, verse 7, and his mercy and grace and love and kindness. And this is where I got the concept that Ephesians is a book about the kindness of God. And if I can get my head around and heart around what God has done for me and us, then there's this an appreciation and a willingness to do the things he requests. I'd like not to forget that there are difficult parts of receiving grace, awareness of sin, and awareness of the offense of the fix, that my sins were nailed to a cross that I wasn't on, and that's therefore in chapter 2, verse 8, that salvation is not of our own doing. I'd like not to forget that works don't save us before salvation, but after salvation, works are at the center of what God has for us. And in a sense, Ephesians is a book about good works, at least 3 chapters worth. It's full of them. I'd like not to forget that Jesus is a killer, that he's a killer of the hostility that we have before God, and the degree of the cost that he pays is proportional to the depth of the hostility. So Christ's crucifixion then is the proportional response to the degree of the enmity, the hostility that we have before God. So I've never heard a salvation, an altar call saying, make Jesus your killer, but that's what Ephesians says to do. I'd like not to forget that God's dwelling place, his tabernacle, his church, is constructed of bricks in which he dwells. I'd like not to forget that the key to being on purpose and being of purpose is to use what God has given me in service to you. I'd like not to forget that prayer is for now, and that prayer is for the generations, many generations, of people that call upon his name. Prayer is for us, not animals, not rivers. Prayer is for the inner man. Prayer is for community. Prayer is for understanding, and certainly prayer is for releasing power. Power not our own, by the way. I'd like not to forget that to know the love of Christ is going to take some strength. It's going to take some guts. I quoted my old boss. I just look for a guy who can take it. And God says the same thing. I look for a guy that has the strength to know the love of Christ. The love of Christ isn't for sissies. I'd like not to forget that our concerns concern God himself. And I'd like not to forget, as we start in chapter 4, that walking in a manner worthy involves patience. And what patience is self-restraint when provoked. It's self-control when someone's got their finger in your eye. And that bearing with people, and bearing with even with the people of God, is going to cost me something, and I need to be eager for it. I need to be eager to plop myself into God's lap, which means to plop myself into God's people, for in it is his characteristics are displayed. His character, the character of the Lord is displayed. And if you want to laugh, God's characters are displayed in the church. And I'd like not to forget that the definition of a good church is one in which, when it is hit by waves, not if it's going to be hit by waves, but when it is hit by waves, the people in it are not tossed to and fro. And we find them reliable, holding their ground, staying the course. So these are things that I'd rather not forget in the book of Ephesians. And this is only half of it. Stay tuned. Come back tomorrow. We're going to review a few more things that I'd like not to forget in chapters 4, 5, and 6. Thank you for listening. Let's not forget today.